Hello, it's David again, and I'd like to start out with fixing the confusion over how old are we? Are we eternal? Are the Christians right that we're born here one time and that how we are doing in this one life has to do with whether we spend eternity in heaven or eternity in hell? The spirituals would say, well, reincarnation. We have been around and we've had many lifetimes, but many of the spiritual people don't really go back and say, well, many lifetimes, there would have to be the first lifetime you had. And if you gauge that to this planet or other planets, you would still have the origin story to deal with because creation, it doesn't go back to forever. There was a point where creation began and the clock began, time and space, breadth, width, height of the dimension, three dimensions of space. Then people call the fourth dimension time. All those dimensions, all those laws of creation were created at a certain point. So if you go, I'm spiritual, so I believe in lifetimes, okay, yeah, but creation started at a certain point. You couldn't be a individual on a planet without a planet. So how's the origin story work? Okay, I'll explain it. The top level would be beyond time and space, and that's the level to which the subject is directed. How we were born and how we are eternal and have a start point. Okay, some would argue that we don't have a start point. First, we had to have a container, something that contains our essence, something that isolates it from other essences. If you have the source of all things before time and space, before creation was created, you have a state of power that is not moving, does not have movement within itself. In fact, when you think of a star, you think of the beams of light that come out from a star. The source of all things, the very center of all before creation of time, there's no beams even. No beams. Because a beam would be starting at the nucleus of that sun and then beaming out and then getting out into space, how a star works. So you'd have that energy traveling. And in the source of all things, it's hard to imagine, but it is pure essence. And if that pure essence ever contacts directly a star, would incinerate a star. That's the intensity of the source. Because the source would spin atoms to a level that would incinerate them. To give you an idea, our star, the sun, has a surface temperature around 10,000 degrees, somewhere around there. Science has estimated that the core of the sun, the heat is over 20 million degrees. Imagine that if the source, the nucleus of all things, touched the sun, evaporation. If it touched the sun a million times, that diameter, it'd be gone like that. That's the intensity we're talking about where you were born. That's your intensity. So I'll talk about how we, as far as dimensions are formed and how it is that we can live in this world with that kind of core intensity of who we are and how that is not touching or doesn't really have a chance of touching this world because it's gone through different levels. So that would be called the Father. Now, how is creation born and how does that have to do with you and how you are eternal and how you relate to being everybody being the same age? So here we are with an unformed core, very intense, very powerful, not beaming light anywhere. It is consciousness light. So it creates a container to then ladle consciousness, pure consciousness, into the core of a container. And then that container goes out and has adventures. Now that needs a lot of explaining. The container is the first creation, and it is the will of consciousness in the beginning. It's hard to imagine these things, but the will and the consciousness in the beginning to create like a line. And then say that line becomes like a rainbow. And this line was pulled apart, this rainbow is pulled apart. And all of a sudden you have a container. It looked like bars of rainbows that held consciousness. Now, and you go, how does he know this stuff? When I've talked to Jesus on many occasions, he knew the last time I talked to him that I had a vision a year before that. And I had seen the burning bush. And people think, well, you're just bragging. Burning bush. Somebody asked me one time, what did God tell you if you saw the burning bush? I could even point out the tree and the mountain and everything else that I was at. But it was a funny story. Someday I'll share it. It was actually a funny story. And all of a sudden, but those on the other side know I have a sense of humor. That's why Buddha keeps showing up, and I keep hearing him laughing. We love to laugh. Anyway, so we're good friends too. But anyway, people ask, well, what did you see the burning bush? What happened? I said, God didn't tell me anything. He showed me things that were relevant that would be later on relevant in my life. And I saw hundreds of planets with different species that all came to this point of spiritual awakening, where they were at the precipice of awakening what you would call heaven on earth or Eden, and that their spirituality would be waking up and be given power. And how so many of the civilizations didn't make it. They failed. It's not a done deal when you make that change from animal man to divine man standing upon the planet as an emissary of love and power. Because if you haven't tempered all these different desires for power, for ownership of things, or narcissism, where you think you're greater than somebody else, my God, that's ridiculous. That's why I laugh about these things when I tell you about these little stories. That who cares? It's just funny. I consider it funny. If anybody ever gives me more than a thank you, that you give somebody holding a door for you. If you're going into a building and I'm 10 feet before you and I see you coming, I'll hold the door open for you. And somebody goes, oh, thanks. That's it. No, oh, thank you. I woke up before somebody else. Big deal. So the people on different planets, some people hadn't gotten past the idea that I'm more special than you. And, I have a power. And then, oh, that's nothing. I'm more powerful than you. No, I'm more powerful than you. And it tears the planet apart because a bunch of stupid people. Truly, if you haven't learned the prodigal son thing about being kind to each other, the empathy, all the different things that make us care, actually even more about our fellow gods in this world than us. That is a problem, and it will present itself. The Creator creates a container. In the beginning, think of white light. White light's in the middle of this, and you have two or three, and you have white light in each one. Well, it's undefined, so you're looking back and forth, and it's just awareness. It's not self-definition yet. So if you think of, I don't know if you guys had this experience, but when I was a kid, we get inner tubes from trucks and blow them up and big things, and we get them and roll down the hills and, get out and be dizzy and ready to hurl. And we thought that was fun. That is what we did here. Consciousness inside here had to whirl back upon itself, kind of like the yin and yang. If you've ever seen those symbols, yin and yang, rolling, 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 rolling. And each time it rolls in the container, it creates a layer, another layer, another layer, another layer. And so the very center of it, the nucleus of consciousness, is still looking through all these layers that are becoming a little bit thicker each time, a little thicker, a little thicker. So then all of a sudden it's like looking at the others and going, I can really feel that I am a separate individual from you. And you're looking at yourself basically and going, yes, I can feel that as well. And so the more layers, the more separation happens. And there you should understand this. Here's another biggie. Original sin. This is original sin. Because original sin is to step away from the Father, the source, the universe, source of all things. Stepping away, becoming one of the many instead of being totally understanding of being the one. The many stepping away to have an adventure is original sin. It is not sin that people relate to sin. Oh, it's a terrible thing. It's a slight against God. It's this or that. Original sin was blessed by. It was the creation of the source of all things, what people would call God, that created the container, placed consciousness. We were created in the image of God, and each container then creating the gravity is the original intent, the will of the Father to create the container, the consciousness of the Father to be inside, locked within this force field so that it can go out and have an adventure. The containment is the best. If you're into sci-fi, you go, you know this, that the ships that go out and they find another ship from another planet and maybe they start shooting at each other and put the shields up, and whose shield is better than the other shield, the bombs and this, and it's a contest of that. Well, this is the best force field ever created because it contains the most powerful energy ever. And I could say the most powerful energy ever created, but it wasn't created. It is in itself with divine will, the first container, and the second and the third, and then countless ones, and then encapsulated itself and then had itself turn around. Kind of asking the question, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? The idea that a dog chasing its tail. Who am I? 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 Knowing that is answered by being everything. Again, that's original sin. You're moving away from home, being sent out as ambassadors. Now, when somebody talks about the fight between Lucifer and man, and that Lucifer thought himself to be more powerful and thought himself to be like God and being the most favored angel, most beautiful angel as mentioned in the Bible. Why was he the most beautiful angel? Now, Jesus had known I had gone to the first level of communication, where communication was instant. There was no time to have a question that is answered. I have these Easter eggs here. I'll explain it. here's an Easter egg, and here's the same one, supposedly, and it has been broken. So if I want to get back to understanding this one question, I would try to answer and get information and try to put it back together. It would not be the same. It would not be complete, but I would ask questions, get pieces of it, try to put answers together, and have an incomplete answer and not have all the pieces. So that would be kind of the first level. The second level would be that this would be filled up with white light, conversational light, where the light would complete and tell me the story of this being complete. Okay, that would be the answer to the question. Well, when you get into the top level, where the Father and I are one, that's been talked about when Jesus said, Father and I are one, we're all power. All questions are not questions anymore, because a question would be a point. The answer would be the other point that would complete that. And there would be a transition to here's the answer. You have the question, here's the answer. But at the top level, the question and the answer, strangely enough, sounds crazy, are the same. There is no question. There is only understanding. So when I had this question in my mind, I didn't know I had it in my mind about the origins story of Lucifer. And I thought, he has so many names. Is it Satan, or is it Lucifer, or is it Beelzebub? Is it Lucifer? Is it Satan? Is it? So I had that question there, and I don't know about the fight. You know, you hear this story about the fight in heaven, that Lucifer said that he's more important than mankind, or the sons and daughters of God, and he's more important. And so he was cast into hell. Interesting story. It's just a story. It's ridiculous, actually. But it does point to a truth, that force field was Lucifer. Because Lucifer was the light bringer. Lucifer being the light bringer, that contains the sons and daughters, that is the vehicle that allows them to interact. It is something that the sons and daughters love and know the wisdom of it. It's like this. You have paradoxes in the universe, and to be wise enough to know that if you have a string, one end could be absolute truth, the other end could be absolute peril, wherever that end ends up, that two ends of the same truth could be true, and it's confusing when the mind gets to it, because it wants to know one answer. It doesn't want to see a paradox. It doesn't want to unravel paradoxes. The heart sees it and goes, oh, yeah, I know. It has two ends. Okay, so let me explain the two ends. You have the first intention of the Creator to create a way to capture its consciousness. At any point, it operates at a higher level. It can erase that, so it's not in danger, because this thing someday would come and attack God. You go, well, he was created on a certain frequency level, and the frequency levels above, if it hit this, it would incinerate that vehicle. And so it allows all these things to happen, because it is the adventure. It is the wonderful thing is to experience just the myriad of things in its encapsulated source. So the sons and daughters within the core are so powerful, it also can incinerate the container. But the container is trying to convince you that it is more powerful than you. And then you realize that if you incinerate the container, you've really screwed up your whole adventure program. So this wonderful marriage between is that is like the original consciousness loving the container, having a great love for the container, but knowing that the container is also the big problem. Because if you can imagine rolling yourself up, and the layers as you roll yourself up and you're looking out becomes the definition of how you can feel so separate from the other container with another soul in it looking back, and you think yourself to be separate, which allows for the great play which happens in creation, the adventures. Also, if there's enough layers and you keep doing that, that layering becomes the feeling of being totally alone, separate, and afraid. That aloneness, separateness, and fear is the cycle that Lucifer is. Now, that cycle is what gives us the power to move, or the definition to move through creation. Too much of that thing puts us in a place where we are greedy, we are selfish, we are hurtful to each other. Terrible things. And that if we're giving much power, what we would do to each other in that place of power, that we destroy our own adventure. We undo our own adventure because we're that stupid in being so separated. As we get to the point where we're not so separated, we realize the love connects us. Then we realize the only way that this works out is if we care about each other, and that we do wonderful things for each other, and that the world benefits when we're loving and caring together. The trees, everything is when we're connected to them all of a sudden feels the different levels of love that we have for each other and for them. And that's where the Garden of Eden becomes that beautiful place. The symbology of eating the apple of good and evil, the knowledge of good and evil, well, the knowledge that is feeling itself very separated and very alone and very much that I want more than you. The different selfish, different cruelties that we have for each other has to do with too many coatings of separateness, and that the original beauty is the story behind Lucifer being the most beautiful angel. He was the light bringer. Then he becomes the terrible, terrible thing of creating so many coatings that he holds you in this locked, hellish environment, and that you are, oh my God, I'll never get out of here. I'm so alone. There is a question I'll put to you. This one is a good one, and you really need to take some time and think about it. Because me giving you the answer, I'll have to give you the answer, but me giving you the answer is really not good. You need to find this out. Say you're in the middle of space, and it is so dark that you can't, and the stars are so far away from you that you can't see the light of the stars, that you're suspended in darkness. You can't even see the nearest star. I have a question. If you can't see the nearest star, where's the nearest light? And remember, you're in darkness. Can't see any light. Where is the nearest light? The nearest light is you. What a trick question. That's tricky. That's ridiculous. Nearest one is me. Well, in this creation here, everything you see that light is reflecting off of a surface. If you're suspended in the middle of space and the nearest lights are so far away you can't see them, You're the one emanating light. You just don't see that light because it has nothing to reflect off of. The idea that when you think that you're in the darkest place, you are the light. And that's the thing, the trick that hell tries to fool you into not understanding. Creating darkness so that your light doesn't reflect off of darkness. If you can't see angels and you don't know about love reflecting and how that works, then yeah, you'll be afraid, terrified. I'm trying to get you past that, trying to get you to understand how that works. So, here is why the consciousness in the center is ladled out of forever. It never was born. It existed and has existed and will exist. Eternity, forever and ever and ever. Ladled out, it didn't have a start date. It was put in that beautiful ball of light that is connected on the higher levels. Nothing has left. The lower levels, it appears to have left. The lower levels beyond that, we have dimensions. It appears that it's really moving everywhere. The reality on the higher levels, it never left. You're there. Powerful, more powerful than you can even imagine. But being able to tap that source, that has to do with linking everything, every point along the way with love and breaking through that. There's people call them nadis or kind of like transistors that step down the power, and that you can, as the soul, connect all the way back. Feel that, know that, and transfer a certain amount of divinity into the world. That's the whole big picture. But I'm going to be teaching a lot of things as time goes on. The next class I'll be teaching how dimensions are formed. And so hopefully you've got enough information out of this one. And I have gone for quite a long time. Sorry, we're going to start shortening these classes down a bit. But I think that for the people going, I've learned dozens of things just in this one class. Thank goodness he didn't teach on just one subject, but he put it all together. It's hard not to put things together and say, this is why you're forever, or because you're forever is in here, twisting around and going out and having adventures. Well, that has to do with another subject, and another subject. How they link together is important to be able to put them together. Thanks again for tuning in. See you next time.